please hit that subscribe button. Hey everybody, better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Slapped out and he scored! And we're live. Hey everybody. So yesterday we looked at the 5 teams in the worst salary cap situations in the NHL. Today I just wanted to do more of like an overview video looking at everybody and just where every team stands as far as the salary cap is concerned around the league. So I'm just gonna go through on Cap Friendly and look at all the teams and how much cap space they currently have, any significant RFAs or anything like that they still need to re-sign, and just kind of bounce around looking at different teams and seeing what their situation is like and seeing where certain teams are at as far as the salary cap. So before we fully begin, I just ask that you please hit that thumbs up button if you haven't yet and subscribe if you are new. Both of those things really help out a lot and are much appreciated. But let's switch over here and start going around, taking a look here on Cap Friendly and just looking at where different teams are situated as far as the salary cap is concerned. So, as you can see, right at the top here, we have the Arizona Coyotes, who are over $1.5 million over the salary cap right now. Obviously, this does not take into effect LTIR people who are going to be added to long-term IR and have their cap hits taken out or anything like that. But it's weird seeing Arizona at the top of the list as far as the least cap space, literally over the cap, and they're not even that good of a team. But yeah, they've spent money. They have money on the books. It's just that money hasn't exactly worked out great for them, and they haven't made any significant playoff runs at all in recent history. St. Louis, who is one of our worst teams, or one of their worst cap situation teams, is also over the cap, as are the Vegas Golden Knights. We talked about those two in the last video. Anaheim looks bad right now, but they have almost $7 million coming off the cap when they put Ryan Kessler on LTIR. So Anaheim, that contract will be coming off the books, and they're actually going to be in okay shape. They're a rebuilding team as well that are going to have more older players coming off the books as the years go on. Washington, not in a great spot. They're slightly over the cap right now. They still have Jonas Siegenthaler as an RFA who they need to re-sign, and they are tight up against it in the cap. So they didn't make the top 5 list, but I would say Washington's probably number 6 as far as bad salary cap situations in the league. They are right up against it. Winnipeg, they obviously have spent right to the cap. Again, LTIR hasn't been those players haven't been taken off the books yet for next season, so they're going to have some cap space opened up when a guy like Brian Little isn't going to play next year most likely. So they're not in as bad of a situation as it seems, but they've spent a good chunk of their money, and they still haven't really been able to drastically improve that defense in Winnipeg. Montreal spent almost to the cap. They still need Charles Hudon to sign as well, but they went out, they got Toffoli, they re-signed Gallagher. Montreal hasn't been shy. They traded for Edmonton. They haven't been shy about making moves, and they have spent all the way to the cap. Edmonton's another team that spent right up there. They only have less than $1 million in cap space. Pittsburgh only has a little over $1 million in cap space. They're pretty close cap-wise. Toronto is one of the teams we talked about yesterday. They still have 2 major RFAs to re-sign and have less than $1.5 million in cap space. They need to make another move as well. Vancouver, they've spent a ton of money. They didn't bring back Markstrom, Tanev, or Toffoli like they necessarily wanted to, but they traded for Nate Schmidt. Huge improvement to that back end, that blue line. They added Braden Holtby in goal to replace Markstrom, so not too bad there. And Vancouver's actually, I think, done okay this offseason. And a lot of people weren't liking the way that their offseason was going. I think it's turned out actually okay. Vancouver should be fine next year, and they've got just under $2 million left in cap space. Obviously, they still have Adam Gaudette and Jake Virtanen who need contracts, but I think Virtanen's a guy that could very easily get moved in a trade. Let's see. San Jose, they're a veteran team that isn't very good. They've got a little bit of cap space at 2.3 million, but they're not in great shape. That's going to be a long rebuild in San Jose. It's going to be a while before that team is good again. Minnesota, they've spent money this offseason. They've been involved in quite a few trades. And the Wild have, middle of the road, 2.7 million cap space. You're going to see a lot of teams with this like 2 to 5 million in cap space. That's kind of middle of the road. Tampa Bay's not really in there because of all the RFAs they still have to re-sign. We talked about them in depth yesterday, but Cirelli, Chernak, and Sergachev all need new contracts in Tampa Bay, so they're actually in big trouble salary cap-wise. Calgary's doing all right. They've spent a lot in free agency, but they still have about $4 million in cap space, so that's good for the Flames. Flyers are in good shape, almost $5 million in cap space. Carolina's got just over $5 million. Chicago's got a little over $5 million. So the teams from here on out are in okay shape for the most part, unless they have a lot of RFAs or a big RFA to re-sign. Dallas is in pretty decent shape. They've got a solid roster and still over $6.5 million to work with. Colorado, Joe Sakic is an absolute genius in Colorado. I don't know how he's been able to pull off what he has with this Avalanche team, but he has a tremendous roster, one of the best in the league, and he still has almost $7 million in cap space to work with. It's unbelievable what he's been able to pull off in keeping everyone under the cap as well with the Avs. The Islanders, we talked about them yesterday. They're not in a great shape because they still haven't signed Matt Barzal, so that $8.9 million in space is very, very deceiving because Barzal's probably going to take $7.5 to $8 million of that, and they have to re-sign Ryan Pulock as well. Boston, a team that I haven't really talked about much this offseason because they haven't really done much this offseason other than lose Torrey Krug, has $10.3 million in cap space, but they still need to sign Matt Grzelcyk. They still need to sign Jake DeBrusk. And they lost Torrey Krug and haven't replaced him with anybody either. So that's a deceiving number there. Boston, they've not had a good offseason. The New York Rangers, they've made some depth moves. They still have, solid cap space, but again, RFAs. I think it's important to see that they still have Ryan Strome and Brendan Lemieux to re-sign up front. They did get Georgiev re-signed and Tony DeAngelo re-signed, so that is massively good news for New York, but they still have Strome and Lemieux as RFAs as well in New York, so that 10.8 isn't really 10.8. Florida, they've obviously lost Evgeny Dadonov. Mike Hoffman, still a free agent as well, could potentially go back to Florida, but other teams are certainly in on Mike Hoffman. So that that $11 million, they have a lot of space, but I think they would like to bring Hoffman back. Columbus, they opened up a ton of cap space, almost $13 million, and really didn't do a whole lot with it in free agency like I thought they were going to, so we'll see what happens there. Nashville has a good amount of cap space, but they still obviously have players they need to sign, or that are roster spots that they need to fill out. The LA Kings, rebuilding team, they have a ton of space. These teams down here have a ton of space. Buffalo, well, I say they have a ton of space. On paper, they do. Buffalo has $13.6 million in cap space, but RFAs, important to check the RFAs. They have Victor Olofsson, Sam Reinhart, Lawrence Pilot, and Linus Ullmark, who are still all restricted free agents and need new contracts. So, I mean, just between Olofsson and Reinhart, a good chunk of that $13 million is going to be gone just between those two. They desperately need to get Ullmark signed and bring back their goaltender. Pilot's not as important, but bring back Ullmark, Reinhart, and Olofsson are very, very important. And Buffalo still needs to do that. So that $13 million is not actually $13 million. New Jersey, $18+ million in cap space. They're rebuilding team, not worried about that at all. And Detroit and Ottawa, also 18+, 20+ for Ottawa. They're teams that are in rebuilds right now and that aren't going to be spending a lot of money because they're trying to get younger players on entry-level deals worked into the lineup, and then those players, if they turn out to be good, will all be getting significant raises on their next contracts, and they need to have the money available to do that. So don't expect Detroit, New Jersey, or Ottawa to spend anywhere near the cap because they're in full rebuild mode. So that's where we're at as far as all teams go. If you want to take a closer look at any of these teams, just go to capfriendly.com. It's a fantastic website. I use it almost every single day. Anything money related, salary cap related, contract related, is all available at Cap Friendly. It's a tremendous, tremendous resource for fans. And as you can see, you can look at any team. You can go in depth with any team, any player. A full breakdown of their contracts are available. So many great resources and tools that you can use on Cap Friendly. So you guys should definitely check that out if you want to take a closer look at any of these situations or any of these teams' salary caps. But I just want to give like a quick overview of kind of where every team is at. As you can see, there are a lot of teams kind of in the middle, 3, 4, 5 million in space, or a decent number of teams who are spent right up to the cap already at this point. And then obviously you have your rebuilding teams that are nowhere near the cap and have tons of space. But with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, our donation link, Patreon, and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.